Hey guys, welcome to the Killer Comic Show, episode 7. Now, I have a writer on who I have spoken to before. He's an absolutely great guy. He's been non-stop since I think we first spoke. It was either towards the end of last year or is it beginning of this year before the pandemic and everything struck. But without further ado, I'd like to welcome Phillip Kennedy Johnson. How you doing, sir?
I'm great, sir. Good to see you again.
You too, mate. You too. So how's it been since, I guess being a writer or an artist and stuff like that, you're kind of used to just sitting indoors, locking yourself away and just cracking on with everything.
Yeah, my lifestyle is not that different as far as the writing. I mean, the day job has changed. I'm in the Army too, and that's been very different. But yeah, as far as the writing, that's just kind of the lifestyle. The comic creators in the world have pretty much gone on without much change.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, how was your job in the Army? I guess that's, you've had to take some precautions and everything's changed around that.
Yeah. Since I saw you last, so for those who don't know, my main job in the Army is playing trumpet in a military band that mostly tours the United States and plays concerts for the American people primarily. We also record, and there was always some internet streaming stuff, but now that's the gig. Like we play a lot of stuff for streaming now. We put live concerts on the internet every single day.
Yeah.
Not all of us are involved though, because it's a pretty big band, and because of constraints, we're only allowed to record a handful of people at a time. So it's mostly little chamber groups and rock bands or bluegrass or a little jazz group or brass quintets or little things.
It still sounds pretty interesting. Who doesn't love a bit of jazz?
Yeah, it's a good job. It's just been very different. When it first happened, when the COVID thing first hit, they also had us doing a lot of anti-COVID efforts, like just taking temperatures and stocking shelves and doing whatever we can to keep things rolling. So there was a lot of that for a while too, and there's still some of that happening. But yeah, things have changed, but it's been not too bad. Super busy.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. So I think last time we spoke, it was all about how you got started into writing and everything. And I think it would be really good to go over that again, because obviously there's some new viewers that are jumping on and like some new subscribers and stuff, and some new fans of yours, hopefully, with like the massive impact of The Last God, which we'll get onto later. But obviously Marvel Zombies Resurrection, which has come round again after the one shot. So how did you become a Eisner nominated writer?
Well, it started out with my kid brother, actually. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a comic artist myself, but I ended up going into music instead. That was just my way out. I just felt like I was better at music, and so I pursued that, and I kind of turned my back on comics for a long time. I didn't, when you're in college, you don't really read for fun. At least I didn't. Nose to the grindstone, and didn't really think about reading as much. And then my brother came of age, and he went the other way. He was also a musician and an artist, but he ended up doing art. As far as comic art, he didn't really know how to get started. He wanted to do it, but we were out in the sticks and didn't really know how it was done. Didn't know how to get into the industry. So I was like, well, hey, come live with me for a while and we'll kind of educate ourselves together. So we would start going to conventions and, bought some books on how comics were made, got our hands on some scripts to see what they even looked like. We just didn't know anything. So we sort of educated ourselves together. And I started writing scripts for him to illustrate, just to give him something for his portfolio. Because before that, he would just write, he would draw single images of comic book characters looking cool, but he didn't really know anything about sequential images, like how to have a story with pictures. Yeah. So I just started writing stories for him to draw, and it was really fun. And eventually I started looking for other artists to work with, and it sort of worked out.
And do you still do some stuff with your brother now, or is that kind of?
We're about to, yeah. He ended up joining the Army also as a multimedia illustrator is the name of the job. And he did 6 years there and then got out and with the GI Bill went to art school at the Savannah College of Art and Design. So he just finished up at SCAD, or he's finishing up. He's doing his last semester now at Savannah College of Art and Design, and now we're going to start doing some books. So that was always the point of this whole thing, is for my brother and I to do books together.
And that just sounds like, to be able to do something like that with your brother, I guess that was kind of like a dream come true. Like, I mean, did you ever used to like write and draw when you was kids growing up, or was that something that kind of just, as you grew up, it kind of just came into the forefront?
We did. Our first project together was a gift for our sister. She was like, when my brother Bill was just out of school. Our sister was just about a year younger than him, so she was about to graduate high school. So we drew and wrote. I wrote for her a little story, kind of a superhero thing with her as the main character, and Bill drew it for her. So that was our first project together. And then I wrote basically a poem for him, just like a short story, a black and white short story for him to draw. And that was probably his first finished story. It was pretty short, but it was done. And then we were working on another thing that eventually became The Lost Boys of the U-Boat Bremen, my webcomic on my website. That was drawn by somebody else. But it started out as a zombie thing that he and I would do together. And now we have a couple of stories that we want to do together now that he's about to finish up school. He's come so far now as an artist. We have other things we want to get going on next.
That must be wicked though. Like, considering that you wanted to be the artist, and then now it's kind of on the flip side. Was there ever any point where you was like, I'm going to continue being an artist? What made you just want to be a writer?
Well, honestly, my drawing chops are for shit now. Like I was pretty good for a high school kid, and I was, I don't mind saying I was pretty good, but now trying to go back, like, I've lost all those chops, because I just sold my soul to music for a long time, and I practiced that was like the only thing I did for years. And now I have the time to devote to writing again. And when I hadn't really done creative writing forever, so I had to kind of figure that out again. I was reading again for fun, but mostly like novels and mostly prose, So I had to kind of educate myself again on what the state of the art is now, and kind of get back into reading comics and figuring out who the really great writers and artists were now, who I wanted to be like. So yeah, it was a really cool process getting back into it.
And who did you used to look up to when you knew you wanted to be a writer? Who was the one that stood out for you most, and you was like, this is who I like, kind of aspire to be, this is who I look up to?
As an adult, there was this really great comic shop that I found in Annapolis, Maryland, not too far from here, called Third Eye Comics. And I was really blown away by how much the scene had changed. When I had stopped reading comics, I was subscribing to the Wolverine monthly series, and to Batman. So the books that I was reading back then were like, Mullet Superman and Nightfall Batman events, and Joe Mad on X-Men, and that was kind of what was going on then, right? All very 90s stuff. And when I got back into it, and I found stuff like The Boys, and American Vampire was I think just starting then. Lock and Key by Joe Hill. American Vampire was Scott Snyder, and not long after that he was doing Batman. And so when I rediscovered comics, the people that really drew my eye were Garth Ennis, Joe Hill, Scott Snyder, who else? Rick Remender. Warren Ellis. Let's see, who else were the big ones that I noticed again coming back. Those are the ones that strike me. Mike Mignola. I started getting into Hellboy. It's not like Hellboy was a new thing, but I had never read Hellboy before. And Garth Ennis too, of course, had been around forever, but I had never read Preacher or anything else, before I got out of the scene.
Yeah.
So those people that really, kind of got me back in.
See, with Joe Hill, I never really followed like his stuff. I've obviously heard about Lock and Key and everything, and I was like, okay, I'm going to give this a go. But it was really when he started working for DC Black Label that he the horror genre for me kind of changed. It kind of come to the forefront, and it was about, wow, this is impactful, because obviously the Lock and Key has now become a Netflix TV series. But for me, it was the way that he was drawing, like writing Basket Full of Heads. There's like Plunge. There's the Dollhouse, and it was just, honestly, reading Basket Full of Heads for me was like, Joe Hill's really got something going on. I like Hill House Comics, the horror genre. I've never really been a fan of it, and it was that kind of took me on that journey of loving horror comics and all zombies and Walking Dead and everything like that. So it kind of led in beautifully to everything that they're producing at the moment now. So for you to aspire and like follow him and everything, it's really great to know that it's also writers follow writers as well. It's not just writers, they stick in their own little bubble and they do what they got to do. But yeah, that's really interesting, because like he's like killing it now on like Lock and Key, the TV show. I think there's another one that's meant to be coming out. You've got, obviously, The Boys is a massive show on Amazon Prime. I'm not sure if you've seen that yet.
I have not seen the second season yet, but the first season was so good.
Oh, it was so good. I think at the moment there's only showing episodes 1 to 3 of season 2. Mm-hmm. But if the trailer is anything to go by, it looks amazing.
Oh,
like Butch is obviously one of the main characters is coming back, so that's going to be great.
Yeah. No, I love that show. I gotta say, I wanted the Lock and Key show to be more like the book. I love the book.
Mm-hmm.
But the Boys show is, I mean, yeah, it's great. They nail it. I missed the tone, kind of like the Guy Ritchie tone of the original series. Like I wanted Huey to be more like himself, more like Simon Pegg version,
Yeah.
But it was super cool to see Simon Pegg come and like have the cameo.
Yeah, I thought it was just great the way he just shows up. He was is it Huey's dad, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
And it's just like all like proper English and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, I can't wait to see how that's going to go. So at the moment, you have kind of been working on the fantastic Marvel Zombies Resurrection, and obviously the ongoing amazing story of book 1 for The Last God, which I think last time we spoke, it was only like issue 2.
Yeah,
issue
probably.
1. And I think now we're on issue 8, and it has just gone from strength to strength. So if I had a hat on, I would take it off to you, sir, because honestly, it's probably one of the only comics that when a new issue comes out, I read from issue 1 all the way again, because the storytelling in it, the concept of it, the map and everything of the layout, the structure of the story, tying in with the artwork from Ricardo it's second to none. And honestly, it's probably one of my favorite comics that I look forward to coming out every time it's on the pull list. So you've done a fantastic job there. So I'm singing your praises constantly, mate.
Well, thanks, brother. I appreciate that. We're very proud of it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think when we spoke last time, there was talk of you doing a compendium for it. Is that still in the works? Are we still, because is issue number 8? Is there 12 issues in total?
12,
book 1? Yeah.
Yeah, there's going to be, by compendium, do you mean like the volume that holds everything, or do you mean like the book? Yeah, there's going to be one. As far as I know, they're not planning on putting out, I thought they were going to be putting out like 2 trades, and apparently they're not. They're going to put out one giant ass like hardcover when the whole thing is done.
Wow.
That'll have all the issues. It'll have the source book in it. It'll have the single issue spinoff that Dan Waters is writing, the Song of Children. That'll be in there. And additional back matter stuff that couldn't even fit in the source book, because we had to we had to trim some stuff out of the source book. As much stuff is in there, we had even more.
I remember you saying, yeah.
So that'll all be in there, and I'm sure we'll find even more stuff to put in there. There's so much material that people haven't seen, so that'll be really fun to have it all in one place.
And you know what? I think the fact that when you first open it up, it's just a map, the whole overview of everything. It's kind of got that like Lord of the Rings Hobbit type of feel to it, but in a much darker, more adult themed way. Would you say?
Yes. I think issues 8 and 9 are where we really start to see. I mean, you see Tolkien influence throughout, but when you get into the abyssal realm where the Dwarves live and all that, that's where the Tolkien influence really starts to become obvious. Obvious in how much it's influenced the story, but also in the differences. Because you see, like in the original Lord of the Rings, you see the mines of Moria and where the dwarves were.
Yeah.
And now you kind of get that version. We got to kind of get the Last God version of that here, where you see where the Dwaros hang out. And even the word Dwaro is a word that Tolkien coined. Like that was his original word for plural of dwarf.
Yeah.
And you see what the Last God version of that is, and there's like this giant like demigod chained up down there, and the creation mythology that comes along with it, and they're like cannibals, and it's just they're a much less pleasant race than they are in Middle Earth.
I mean, because what I've noticed in, as you said, issue 8 and 9, it becomes a lot more violent, should we say? There's a lot more blood, and I think one of the scenes is probably this here, where he gets the axe in the back of the head. Yeah. I mean, that was amazing. Like this scene here, you're not expecting it, because obviously they're wearing him off, saying, look, he doesn't have a weapon, he's just coming, and then he's like, a madman is always armed, and before you know it, splat, there's an axe in the back of the head. But my favourite page has to be this double page spread.
Yeah, look at that. Ricardo.
It just doesn't, literally, he's so pissed off. He's just ripping bodies from left to right. It was just, this was one of the things that I was like, this is an amazing piece of art. And he is such a great character.
Yeah. Are you talking about Jorun, the Dwaro?
Yeah.
Or Gray, the
Gray. I think he's just...
Gray's the best, man. I love that guy.
Oh, my God. He's insane. And he's kind of like, if you piss him off, you know full well.
Yeah.
You're going to piss him off.
Yeah. Seeing him pulp this guy, it was so cool. I love Gray. I love how devoted he is to Cyanth. He's just the best.
And he literally won't leave her side, and it's really endearing to see. I mean, here he's just, anyone that goes near her, he is just untouchable. And I think
he's one of my faves in the book for sure.
And what issue is it? Was it issue 6 where they're on the bridge and he literally first stands up for them? Yeah, I think he stands in front of Cyan
for the first time. 6? That was in 3, I think. Issue
3. But it was just...
I think 3, maybe 4. 3, I think. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Seeing the whole group come together was really fun. Like seeing them find each other one by one. When they find Gray, and Gray has had this, Gray was mourning its cub. You learn a little more about these monsters, and they mourn their dead, and they sing to them, and Cyanth understood it, having just lost her dad.
Yeah,
that was really, really nice to see them come together that way.
That's kind of where they bonded, wasn't it, for the loss of loved ones, and they kind of just built this relationship that, at the moment, it seems to be unbreakable.
Yeah.
You probably know much more than me.
Yeah, I do know how all that ends, but it's coming soon. You'll see it all too.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, I mean, for me, it has been such a great comic to read that I just can't help but want to know more. It's one of them comics when you get to the end, you're like, I've now got to wait 2 or 3 weeks for a new issue to come out, and you're like, for God's sake.
I know.
Well, have you been?
Man, I appreciate the kind words.
Oh, honestly. So have you been? So you've writ. I don't know. You're probably on to like book 2 or anything like that. But do you ever just sit down after you've written like a comic and think, I'm actually going to read it, as you would being a fan?
Not just because I want to revel in it, but I will read it to kind of. I think it's important to go back and read everything in the series up to that point to make sure that what you have coming still fits in the context of the story you're telling. you want to kind of remind yourself of what's come first and of the tone of it so far and everything. So sometimes, yeah, every now, like about once a month or two, I will go back and read it again from the beginning, just to remind myself of everything that's come so far, and make sure that it all is of a singular vision.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to lose track of where you've, like when a series gets long, it's easy to lose track of where you started or what was happening in the first issues and what readers expect. And you want the whole thing to feel like one story from the beginning when it comes out together as a single trade down the line. Because you do have readers reading things, like you say, sometimes people will read from the beginning again. Whenever a new book comes out, and you want it all to feel, singular.
But I mean, it must be great because obviously you've got a little boy, haven't you?
I do.
So he must just look at you writing scripts and comics, and it must just be such a great thing for him just to look up for you and think, my God, my dad's an amazing comic book writer. Is he into comics?
Yeah.
Is he an artist or is he a writer? What side is he you or is he your brother?
Of the two, he's definitely more into storytelling. He has a lot of Legos and little figures and things. And we will kind of workshop stories together using his toys, which is really fun. Like he's great about making up stories. He's he'll invite me up to his playroom where all of his figures are kept, and he's like, "Here's what we're doing today," and he'll tell me what the scenario is, what the adventure is. Like today we got the Avengers, and they're gonna team up. The Avengers are gonna team up with Shazam against Thanos or whatever.
Oh, wicked!
Yeah.
That's so cool.
He's not bound by publisher or universe. We'll do like a DC Star Wars team up or whatever he wants to do, and it's always really fun.
Oh, that's wicked. So do you think, has he, obviously some of the comics that you're writing at the moment, so I think if we flip over to Marvel Zombies Resurrection, so there was some, I think last time we spoke, there was some confusion.
Oh, I'm losing you.
February? Was it February it came out?
Oh, sorry, there you are. No, the original issue came out, the prelude came out in Halloween. So that
was it last year, and
end of October, yeah.
And it was the confusing because for some reason my internet is really playing up, Philip. So I'm just gonna playing up.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. Yeah, for some reason my internet is really playing up.
No worries. Can you hear me?
I think. Yeah, for some reason. Yeah. Hold on, I'm just gonna have to turn the volume down.
It's all right. I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Right.
I'm not sure if you can hear me. Can you hear me, dude?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, you were asking about the delay maybe between the prelude and the rest of it.
Yeah. So obviously, Marvel Zombies Resurrection, the prelude, I think it confused people because I think the way that it ended was I don't think people knew it was a one shot, did they?
No, they didn't. Honestly, my only complaint about the whole process has been the way they kind of marketed the weight and the way they numbered it. So the prelude that came out last year was numbered Marvel Zombies Resurrection #1, and they did not really make it clear that it was a one shot. So then people were expecting #2, of course. And the actual plan for that book was to have the one shot and then to have the miniseries a few months later. And they really wanted to release the whole the miniseries weekly, but you can only do that if you get way out ahead of it. So we did the prelude right as soon as they hired me to do the prelude issue. We just banged it out right away, and then we I wrote the scripts for the rest of it, but then, Leonard's got to draw all that stuff. So it took months to get caught up to release the rest of it. And then COVID hit us too. Because the first page of the miniseries is Times Square in terror from this big outbreak. And like, that was literally happening, and when it was supposed to be released in April. So they pushed the whole thing back, of course, which, I couldn't be pissed about that. So plus that was also around the time that distribution was getting all screwed up through COVID. That's when Diamond kind of shut down for a while. And so anyway, it's coming out now, and I'm sorry for the wait, and I'm sorry for the confusion over the numbering, because this is also Marvel Zombies Resurrection #1. But that's how it had nothing to do with that. But now it's out, and I'm excited for people to read it finally. I'm sorry, man, I can't hear you. No, I'm sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Right. So there's some real bad signal with my internet at the moment. So it's been fine all day, and then as soon as I got onto the live stream, it stopped working.
That's how it goes.
But, so I think the way that it's been done, and the way that it follows Peter Parker I think it's been really, really smartly well written, I have to say. And it kind of, am I right in thinking it picks up from the previous Resurrection issue? Yes,
it's there's at the end of the prelude, you see Peter Parker talking to the Richards kids, Franklin and Richards, the children of the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
And whenever you see the flashbacks, it goes back to that same time when the Galactus Hive is just first coming down to Earth. And then the main storyline is about, I think, 4 or 5 years later. So you're following the same characters a few years after the outbreak, and Earth has become this new thing. Like, Earth is now very different than it was. It's kind of like Cormac McCarthy's The Road, where this is after everything has happened, and you don't really get to. You're not really asking the questions why exactly. It's just things are just where they are.
Yeah.
But the flashbacks go back to the time at the end of the prelude.
And it was, the artwork. So you've worked with In-Hike Lee on this, and are you both working together for all the issues, or is it going to be a different artist every issue?
Well, Inhuik does the covers. The interiors are Leonard Kirk.
Yeah.
And Leonard does the entire series. He's the same artist who did the interiors for the Prelude, does the interiors throughout the series. Yeah. Same colorist as well, Rochelle Rosenberg. I think Rochelle did the Prelude as well, though I'm not sure about that. But there's the cover. Man, those covers are so good.
Oh my God, they are insane. They really are. But even the previous one, the Prelude, where it was, I think, Captain America, Wolverine, and
Deadpool, I think.
Yeah, Deadpool. They was insane, and they say never judge a book by its cover, but if a cover looks this good,
yeah, I welcome that.
Do you know what I mean? It's just insane, and the fact that as you go through, it just gets. I think look at this Galactus. Yeah. Just smashing down, and this, I can imagine why this. I can't imagine why this was put back.
Yeah, there's real life right there for a while.
It is, and I guess was you like halted on the whole thing, or was it just the release of this issue? Was you able to continue writing the rest of them, or?
The whole thing was done by this time. The writing was done, and even the art was almost done. I think Leonard was only like 10 pages away from being finished with the entire series.
Wow.
And then they gave us all pencils down. There were a lot of series, like about a third of their books halted production, and this was one of them. I think not because of. It was almost finished. So the only reason that they didn't want to put it out, I think, was because of the subject matter. They just wanted to kind of take a breather. But then it wasn't that long before they told us to resume. And, again, my part was done except for just giving notes and, giving feedback. But they, thankfully, not too much time passed before they asked Leonard to finish. There were other things that couldn't, that I don't think ever got done. Like I know people were working on other Empire tie-ins that didn't get finished. Things that just aren't going to get made now, unfortunately, because of the, because of the drawback. Yeah. But yeah.
But, I mean, Galactus is playing quite a massive part in, obviously, this comic. He's playing a huge part in the latest Thor run.
Right.
It kind of seems that he's probably the 2020 version of what Thanos was last year for the Avengers.
Yeah, kind of. I think as far as I know, Galactus also had an unfortunate turn in Thor. I think it's kind of unfortunate for us too, because I don't want it sucks when different series are doing kind of the same thing, but not in collaborative ways. Like it's kind of hitting the same beats. And I didn't know what was coming in Thor. It kind of didn't have anything to do with this. But this book was supposed to be out, 6 months ago, and then it wouldn't have been an issue. But now we got Dead Galactus in 2 different books, and that I don't know.
Yeah.
Plus this big Marvel Zombies reveal in one of those same issues where Thanos is leading this army of the dead. Yeah. That also makes it seem like we're all telling the same story at the same time, and it's kind of not the case. But that's just how the schedule worked out this year because of COVID.
Yeah, because I mean, I think obviously people you've hit the nail on the head. I think people are looking at this thinking, well, have Thor copied this or have you copied that? Do you know what I mean? So it must be, right. it must have quite a negative impact. You think, well, for God's sake, like the distributions could have done a slightly better thing with it, but I guess they've got deadlines to meet, and I guess them pushing them out at the same time is kind of, you couldn't really do anything about it.
Yeah, it's such a bigger picture. They had such bigger picture problems. They're not worried about, well, we can't put out a book now because it's going to have this weird little. It's going to be too similar to Thor. Like they're not thinking about little minutia like that. They just got to.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that there's not going to be tie-ins with other series. Like there very well could be. We could see the Thor thing play out in another Marvel Zombies chapter down the road. I'm not saying that's not coming, but I will say that we did not intend to put these stories out at the same moment.
No, of course. Because for people that haven't read this comic yet, so obviously in the prelude, the superheroes like the Avengers and everything, they answer a call, don't they? From is Captain Marvel, isn't it?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
In the prelude, they answer a call, don't they? They answer a distress call.
That's right. Captain Marvel calls down to Earth saying this. Like you can't tell exactly what she's saying, but it's all garbled. But basically, it seems like a distress call or a call to action. And she says, "Come and see" at the end, which suggests that she was already zombified by that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, they look up and they find what looks like the dead body. It looks like the corpse of Galactus floating in space.
Yeah.
And they get up there to investigate it, like the Event Horizon. They're like, "What is this doing here?"
And then we are greeted, with this. It's absolutely. He is basically the devourer of worlds and superheroes by the looks of it, because he's just wreaking the havoc down. And I think obviously our neighborhood Spider-Man is there to save the day. There's the Vulcan, which I thought this was a great image to have. Right, one of Spider-Man's all-time villains after him, and he makes an appearance. The Vulture has just literally come back, and he's now zombified, and he's even more out for vengeance than he was when he was part of the Sinister Six.
Proper scary, finally.
Oh my God, he was like, even the face, like the darkness on the face. Leonard's done an absolutely amazing job on every single page of this. Leonard's
one of the most underrated artists at Marvel. He is so good, and I couldn't believe how good he was on this book. Like he's, there's not, there might not be like one single image that Leonard has done that makes everyone like stand up and like cheer like you do like for Esad Ribic or somebody. But he's so dynamic. Like all of his stuff just looks so in motion all the time. His layouts are the best anywhere. Like anytime I would write a script, I keep the whenever I write a page, I try to keep the the visual detail pretty light, because he always, like, whatever he comes up with is always so good, man. Like,
Yeah.
he's just he's like one of the best storytellers I've ever worked with.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible, the work he was doing on this book. I can't wait to work with him again. He just crushed this series. This is, I mean, obviously I'm biased, but I think this is the best work of his career on this book. And I can't wait for people to see what he's got coming next. Every issue of Marvel Zombies makes the world bigger. I really want everyone to see what Earth looks like now.
Yeah.
So they're on this journey, and every like the issues will be coming out roughly every 2 weeks. I think the next issue of this is is 3 weeks, I think, for the next one, but then every couple weeks after that.
Okay.
And I can't wait for everyone to see what he's done. Every issue shows a different setting, a different place that we haven't seen yet, and we get to see another chapter of, like, well, what happened with the with Shield and with AIM. What are you guys up to in a world like this? What's up with the Phalanx? What's going on with, what about this one character? What about these other characters? We just add more and more of that, and the world just keeps getting bigger, and Leonard just crushes all that stuff.
It is. It's like an open world computer game, because this issue is just focused on, like, Spider-Man and some of the people that have survived and stuff. But then, as you mentioned, whatever happened to them superheroes that answered the call from Captain Marvel? Where are they? What's the other part? What's actually happened to the rest of the Fantastic Four? Where are, like, the X-Men and stuff like that? I mean, because obviously here they're flying around, like, the Spider-Man's got them on a Fantastic Four. It's like a spaceship or anything, and then out of nowhere, you think they're going to be saved the day, and then it's just Uncle Johnny just knocks them for six, knocks out Spider-Man, and then we are left wondering what the hell is going to happen. I mean, this piece of artwork is sensational.
Yeah.
Like, the hand that's just coming across here and the fist here, it's all in proportion. It's all in, as you mentioned, everything seems to be in motion. Like Spider-Man falling off, the Richard screaming, Johnny throwing the hand, Spider-Man falling. There's everything in this page.
Yeah, the way you see the perspective in that panel one, and the way that you still see he finds a way to fit in the other characters in between the arms of Johnny. Like, you see everyone right there.
And I'm not the only one that thinks this. Dawn of Comics has said that's some good looking artwork.
Well,
it's sensational.
I cannot take credit. Leonard's so good. So yeah, exactly. This is a great page. It surely shows what Leonard can do.
It must just be amazing to see your writing come together with the artwork that really, really puts it together. I mean, I think it's around 40 or 39 or 40 pages of absolute zombified beauty, if that's the right way to put it.
Yeah. No, every page that comes in, it's all. I almost never had a note for him. It was always like, yep, that looks awesome. Next.
So when your creative ideas, when you're coming through to it, like, would you go to him and say, right, obviously this is the writing for it. I think this artwork, the way we could do this would work really well. It'd help with the writing structure. Or does Leonard come to you and say, I've read your script, I've read what's going to go on a page, I think this artwork would work better? How does it work with a writer and artist?
With Leonard, there really was not even that much. Like, it's important for me to collaborate closely with whoever I'm working with. There's a lot of conversation back and forth with Ricardo on Last God, who is also a genius. Like, I've been really spoiled with artists. With Leonard, I worked with him closely on the designs, because for Nana, the Sentinana that we use in this story.
Let me see if I can find her. Where is she?
She's coming up here.
There she is.
Yeah, I worked with him closely on her design. Had a very specific idea for her, and the same for some of the zombie characters we have coming up, and for the weapons that Forge has made here, especially.
Well, this one here, I was literally just about to get onto this. This made out of Cyclops' helmet was an absolute stroke of genius. This is just. If this was actually made in a movie, I can't see anyone coming back from it. it's insane.
I love it. That's probably my favorite part of the series. I really, it's fun. So that's the names that behind the scene names that we had for these weapons were the I-beam, is one that he's firing.
Yeah.
And there's the firearm, which is it's the arm of Pyro, the X-Men villain.
Oh wow, okay.
That's what Valeria is firing.
Yeah.
And then the handgun that Franklin is firing.
And Franklin's fine.
That is the severed hand of another villain whose name escapes me at the moment. He's not like a big famous villain. He's a guy that appeared very briefly in an X-Men comic, who like shoots lasers out of his fingers. And Forge got a hold of his hand and made it into a pistol for Franklin to use.
I mean, Forge is he just seems like a genius.
He's the best. That's
gone unseen. I mean, so I guess this kind of goes back to what we were talking about Galactus and like Thanos and stuff like that. So obviously Thanos, last year massively, the Avengers blew up and he was all over everything. He was everyone's favorite villain. Was he good in Avengers, Infinity War and Endgame, or was he the actual baddie? I think there was some talk around that. But with Galactus, it's kind of like, even in the Thor that's going on at the moment with like the Black Winter and stuff like that, there's still kind of is he the good guy? Because obviously he's come to Thor and he's like, we need to stop the destruction and the devour of all the worlds. But then on the flip side, he's kind of working with Thor, who becomes his herald, to fight the Black Winter so he can gain his power back again. So then you're like kind of confused. And then, so there's that part of the two stories working together, but then you've got Marvel Zombies Resurrection, but then you've also got Deceased from DC. Now, what I like about the two different stories is that Deceased, they've got their zombies, they literally just seem like ravenous beasts that are just hell-bent on killing everyone, superheroes, anything that stands in their way. But with Marvel Zombies, it doesn't seem like they've lost all their mentality and stuff. There's still something in the back of them that is kind of telling them not to do stuff or go ahead with it. And it's very much told when we get to the scene with Hank, where he kind of comes back and Forge is like, Hank, is that you? And he kind of still tries to get into him. So it's kind of, I was reading his comment thinking, is there a cure? Is the cure that they're actually, there is still part of them inside them?
Yeah, I don't want to give it away too much because the Richards kids are trying to actually cure their parents. We don't know yet if that's possible.
Yeah.
I will say, like, as Peter emphatically tells them in this issue, like, you can't cure a dead organism. Like, you kids should know this. Like, it's this thing kills them before they even turn. Mm-hmm. Can't cure them, but these characters do still seem to remember who they were.
Yeah.
So we'll get some more answers as this goes on about why that is. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they definitely remember who they like. You've got, Nightcrawler was speaking this creepy, like bit of gospel in German. So it's very clearly him, in there, even though he's dead.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's, I want to make it clear that there is some kind of echo of the original characters in this series. And the same when you see the flashbacks and the Fantastic Four show up and you're talking to Sue herself and she remembers who she's talking to. Mm-hmm. To me, that just makes it so much more creepy. So the fact that they're able to, they're still ravenous monsters, but they also speak and they give these creepy little bits of gospel.
Yeah.
So yeah. That's the approach I wanted to take. There's really not much in common with the original series, but I did like that they were able to talk. I was not like the original series is not my speed really. Like it was just kind of a fun, like I tell people, it's a kind of a fun zombie romp, and it was just kind of a fun concept. Like you'll see all your favorite superheroes as zombies, and they're making zombie jokes and eating each other's brains, and it's just not. What I wanted, it's not a story I wanted to tell, and it's already been done now.
Exactly.
So I wanted to just start over, and Marvel was all about that. So it's really not very similar to the old story, but they do still speak, just in a very different way.
Yeah, because the way I've looked at it is that even though it's Marvel Zombies Resurrection, it's kind of a new beginning because you've kind of left the old stories behind and you've gone on to something bigger and better.
Yeah.
In my opinion, you've kind of brought it into the modern world, and it's more serious. It's more structured. It's kind of more intelligent in the way that you've just said, like the zombies still speak, but obviously they are zombies at the end of the day. Instead of like cracking wise jokes like they did in way back when Marvel Zombies first came out, it's like they're killers at the end of the day, so they wouldn't be really cracking wise jokes.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of questions about whether it's the same universe or just they want to understand the relationship between the original series and this one, and there really is none creatively. Like if the original Marvel Zombies series was, to me, that's like the movie Planet Terror that Robert Rodriguez did, and this one is more like James Cameron's Aliens meets The Road. You know, that's the tone. It's a very different tone, very different story we're telling. I really wanted there to be emotional stakes, where if one of the characters dies, it matters to you, and if even if one of the zombies dies, that should also matter to some degree.
No,
because we've still seen beloved characters who have been turned. Obviously, none of these guys wanted to be zombies, so even when you see them turn, that also matters. So you feel the victories, you feel the losses. And you've got characters who all love each other and become like a family. And when one of them dies, it's a crushing blow. You know, that's how I wanted it to be.
And I think I definitely think that does come across. I mean, for me, especially like reading it, I really enjoyed it. But there was, even when Nightcrawler here died, I was like, oh really?
Yeah.
I didn't want that. I didn't want that to happen. But because the way that Leonard's done the artwork was obviously Banff. Like you hear that in the X-Men films when he disappears. But I couldn't help but saying it on the comic and just going Banff. Like as it acting it out as if he was actually disappearing. You can't, like the way that this has all been put together, it is just very much like you're there, you're endearing these zombies and heroes to survive and kind of work together, and then when a hero or villain does die, you're like, oh really, that was too soon, or it wasn't soon enough.
Yeah, it was fun to see I really like the idea of Nightcrawler bamfing around, like only half of him is there, and it's you see the old sound effect that we all know and love, but it's like done in kind of a creepy, stylized way. And the letterer, everyone did such a great job in this book. It's just an honor to be part of this team.
It is, honestly, it is, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how. It's only 4 issues, isn't it? It's only 4 issues.
The first one was double sized, but the rest of them will be 20 pages a piece.
Okay.
And I'm hoping we do more because I had an insanely good time on it.
And I love the fact that you've kind of, similar to with Last God as well, the way that you've written this story, it could open up to a hell of a lot more. So I've kind of got my fingers crossed that Marvel see that as well and kind of think,
I'd love to. Yeah, I mean,
let's just keep going with it.
I'd love to show more with the characters who survive, and I'd love to show more like other little pockets of characters throughout the MCU as well, and see who else has made it out of here.
But honestly, this was, I loved the prelude that you did. This one, I didn't know what to expect going into it. I was like, is it going to be as good as the prelude? Is it going to be better? And I have to say, mate, you've knocked the ball out of the park with this one. And if this is just the first issue and this is anything to go by, I can't wait to get the rest.
Yeah, I'm very pleased with it. I'm very proud of it. The other issues are all very much in keeping with this one. So if you like this one, you like the rest. And
it's clear to see that the same as you do with Ricardo in The Last God, you're doing the same with Leonard in this. Like is it the synergy between the writer and the artist is, you've got, you work really, really well together. Sometimes it can become a bit disjointed with the writer and artist, and they've got different portrayals of the way they want things to be done and everything. But it just seems in both of the recent comics you've got out at the moment, they're kind of flawless, because you can clearly see that both you and the artist want the same thing out of it, and it comes across excellently. So I'm singing your praises all the way, mate.
Thank you, man. It's great fun.
It honestly, and being a reader as well, it's great fun to get involved with it, read it and stuff. And what I really liked about Marvel Zombies is that there's still bits in there. I mean, because I think people sometimes forget that Peter Parker, he was like a young scientist. He was studying science, and then he got bit. So for him, when he does have his input about like the fact that he's like, they can't come back from this. It's a dead organism. You can't survive this. You can't. There probably is no cure. It's really good to just see that even though he is Spider-Man, he's still a human that understands life. And even him being a superhero, he's kind of said, sometimes you can be a superhero, you can try and do all the good you can, but if there's no saving, there's no saving.
Yeah, it's been, writing him was so fun, man. It's he's usually, obviously more funny than, a lighter tone than it is in this story. But I still feel like we did a good job of finding his voice in this book. Like, he's still got the wit, and just the casual way of talking, but he's also got these, his spider sense in this story has become like a problem, because his spider sense is constantly going off.
Yeah. So
now he's got these crippling headaches that are killing him potentially.
Yeah.
And he's having to learn to deal with that. So he's not his old funny self anymore. He's had to, essentially kill his undead friends and family over the years. And he's just trying to keep these kids alive. And he's, they're just such a dark, bleak life. So he's not his funny self. But when they find what they find in this first issue, and they kind of start on this last mission again, they kind of get back in the saddle as heroes, trying to actually do something good. Over the course of the rest of the series, they kind of remind themselves who they were and who they are. And we see Peter Parker start to become Spider-Man again.
Yeah.
And that was a really fun arc to write. It's really cool to see Peter Parker remember who he was and become more like his old self again over the course of the series.
Yeah, because I think, isn't it Forge that says to him, you kind of need to just stop with the spider sense, because it's going to kill you one day.
Yeah. Like they need, he can't turn it off, but he needs medicine. Like, he needs something to keep it in check, or it's going to kill it. He's like, we need medical supplies, not just to keep your head working, but keep these guns working, because their guns are part biological.
Yeah.
So they need like all these they need insulin and various things to keep the guns working. Otherwise the biological parts will just rot,
And it was just, I thought it was great when they just literally come through the woods and they're at the Xavier's school for gifted. I was like, this is just, shit's about to go down. And it did, with the arrival of Hank, aka Beast. It was just, that first thing where he burst onto the screen and he just bites someone. It had essences of Last God, the epic double page spread that we just spoke about. It was right. Like the similar build and stuff. So
yeah. No, it was fun, and Forge kind of, I wanted to. Those are my thoughts about Beast that Forge was speaking. He talks about how great Beast always was with the kids, how kind he was, how patient he was, and he's this big hulking brute, visually, but he's also like the consummate teacher, and mentor. And he says he shouldn't give the name Beast to a guy like that. He's a sweetheart of a guy. And then when you see him again,
and then he burst onto the screen.
He really has become a monster, So it's kind of makes it more tragic.
Yeah. And it was a shame to see Forge die. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, I know. I didn't want to do it, but it just made sense. Because now they have to muddle on. Now they have to muddle on without him. And those. Yeah. He was so valuable in a world like this.
100%, and he was so focal in this issue. It was kind of the relationship between him and Peter, and then now it's kind of like Peter's now he's on his own, as it were. He's kind of like the only adult looking after it. He hasn't got Forge to turn around to him and like give him that prep talk and give him the slight advice. So I was kind of gutted. I was like, I can't believe you've done this already. I nearly sent you a message on Instagram saying, what are you doing? Why did you do that?
Well, we gotta make them hurt, though. You gotta make those.
Yeah, of course.
Deaths count. Like, if any of these characters die, you need to feel it. And yeah, Forge too. I hated to see Forge go.
Yeah.
But it just made sense for the story we were telling.
No, definitely. So, after all that, is there anything else that you are working on at the moment? I know you said at the beginning there's something big that you've got coming up. But is there? Look, the excitement in your face. If a writer gets excited about something coming out, full well it's going to be absolutely epic. So yeah, obviously you can't talk about that, but are you able to say
Like,
when it's coming out, or?
Let's see. Well, yeah. There's these two really big announcements coming that I cannot wait to talk about. Both of them are dreams come true, which sounds weird to say because this one was too. I mean, Marvel Zombies was like, oh my god, I get to do this and I get to do it the way I want it to be.
Yeah.
So but these next books are like end of the road gigs for me. Like where when they're done, I can just die happy, be like, I did this thing. I can't tell you any more about it yet, but there's going to be one at DC and one at Marvel, and we're going to be announcing it. I think probably we'll announce both in October, I think.
So you are burning a candle at both ends with the two massive mega players of the comic world.
I'm so excited. I can't wait.
You are a very wanted man, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, sir. It's going very well. The one thing I can talk, well, a couple. So there's around in October, you're going to see a Swamp Thing anthology that I'm very excited to be part of. I have a short story in that with a very talented artist named Domo Stanton. He and I are telling a story that takes place in your backyard, actually.
Okay. Wow.
Very excited to tell. We're going to see different iterations of Swamp Thing over the years, and we have one that takes place in England that I'm very excited about.
Swamp Thing is a great character because he did it was an Amazon Prime TV show, and then they cancelled it after the first season.
I know, man. That should have been.
That was epic.
Yeah, the DC Universe channel had I didn't quite pick up steam like they wanted it to, sadly. But that was honestly, I had not gotten around to seeing that show yet. I didn't have a subscription, but at some point I need to watch that show. I've just been drowning in work. So so Swamp Thing, which I'm very excited to be a part of, and also there's some unbelievable talent in that book. I know Emma Rios has a story in there that she's doing with Vita, I think. I'm sure Ron V will have something in that book because he's got his finger on the Swamp Thing pulse these days. A friend of mine named Morgan Beam is doing a story that I'm very excited to read. But they're also bringing back the Tales of the Dark Multiverse at DC, and I have a Batman Hush chapter coming out. So we have a double-sized issue. Yeah, like a 48-page Batman Hush story, like kind of a what-if Dark Multiverse version on that story. That can't wait for everyone to read.
And when is that coming out?
That comes out in November.
Okay. I can add that to my wife's birthday list because that's my birthday in November. So I'll be like, hey, get me that.
Yeah, you'll dig it. I think we're pretty excited. It's Dexter Soy is doing the art, and he's great. He was the artist on Red Hood for a long time. Okay. And he's doing great work on this too. So a very alternate version. You're going to see a version of Gotham in which there's never been a Batman, and suddenly Batman suddenly appears like in modern day without all the history. So imagine all the different events that have happened in Gotham over the years, but imagine Batman was not there to deal with any of that.
Oh, wow.
Like No Man's Land, there's no Batman.
Yeah.
The emergence of these various characters, the emergence of the League of Assassins and Ra's al Ghul, Court of Owls. Like all that was happening without Batman to fix any of it. And now suddenly, modern day, Batman appears in a very, very different way. And we don't know who it is. So it's pretty exciting.
Wow, it sounds epic. That sounds amazing.
Thank you.
I mean, because Batman at the moment, I'm not sure if you're reading the latest run by James Tynion, but Batman is insane at the moment. Obviously, DC have brought out 3 or 4 different characters. Obviously, Punchline being Joker's new flame and stuff like that. But yeah, Batman, he kind of obviously he's always been the face of DC, whether you're a Batman or you're a Superman. But he has always been around, and I think over the last couple of years, he kind of not dropped off the radar. He kind of just fell back a bit, and I think the Batman arc at the moment has just been absolutely killing it. He's gone from strength to strength with every issue that's come out. So yeah, more Batman, the better in my eyes.
I'm glad to hear it. Well, this is a very different take on him, and I think you're going to love it.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it, because obviously, is this something that you're doing now with DC? Will there be mention of this on like DC Fandom? Because obviously DC Fandom Part 2 is coming up next Saturday. So is there any part of this that you will have a play in, that they will mention the comics coming out and the stuff, or is that totally a different entity?
Honestly, I haven't heard. I think they're going to be focusing more on big media. I'm sure there will be some talk of the comics, but I don't
Hmm.
know. I don't know what they have planned for that. I haven't heard. I'm
Hmm.
not going to be personally involved, to my knowledge. I don't know what they're planning on. I don't know what marketing is planning on putting out there. Marketing, publicity have their hands all over stuff like that. I know that we're going to be doing some things for the New York Comic Con, which will be virtual.
Yeah.
So we'll be talking. I'll be involved with that for sure. I don't know exactly
Hmm.
what the panels will be yet, whether it's going to be about the Batman issue or whether it will be other things. We have some really creative, cool ideas in mind for what those panels are going to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really more in the publicity realm.
It just sounds it's a very exciting time to be a comic book reader, I would say, especially with like the lights of the lockdown, everything that was happening. People were able to read a lot more and get involved with comics a lot more, because I think on DC especially, they brought out, like, they was bringing out digital first. I think it was every week.
Yeah.
So I mean, is it going to be tough for you with everything? I mean, obviously they got rid of about 80, or I think it was about 800. They made 800 redundancies. Is there kind of any worry from the writers that there won't be any more comics anymore? I guess for you, if it's digital or it's an actual comic, it doesn't really matter for you, does it really?
No, I mean I don't see that ever happening. I don't see
Hmm.
it ever going all the way digital. I mean, comics are a creator or a collector's culture as much as they are
Hmm.
reader's culture. Like, everyone wants to read them. Well, not everyone. I mean,
Yeah.
primarily people want to read them, but there's people who just want to have them.
Hmm.
Um, and I definitely fall in the middle of those camps. Like, I don't really collect old books. I'm mostly
Hmm.
when I collect comics is to read them, because I want to know. I want to take them in. I want to like
Yeah. Yeah.
educate myself on the
Yeah.
stories,
Hmm.
and know who the writers and artists
Hmm.
were. I don't want to just like have them and never open them. Like, I'm not that kind of collector.
Hmm.
I know people that are, and either way, just having a physical thing that you can pass on to your kids, it's something that matters to a lot of people in the
Yeah.
comic scene. So I don't
Yeah.
see it ever going to straight digital.
Hmm.
But even if it were, they would still need writers and artists to make those books happen.
Exactly.
And people will still read them in some way. So
Yeah.
it wouldn't be as tragic a blow as some people might think. But I mean, obviously, you'd still want them in paper.
Yeah. No, of course. But it's been a great pleasure talking to you as always, mate. It's
Oh, you
always
too, my
good.
friend.
It's always good to catch up with you, and just thank you again. I know you are hectically busy, so thank you for taking a time out of your busy schedule to,
Of course, it's my
to
pleasure.
talk to little old me from across the pond. It's been great as always. And for the people watching us on the replay, if you haven't read Marvel Zombies Resurrection #1, make sure you get it now. It's a 4-part issue. The first issue is a bumper, jam-packed full of zombie goodness, and also Last God #8 is on your shelves at the moment. And if you haven't read from #1 to #8 so far, one, have you been living under a rock? Two, we was in a pandemic, so you should have been reading stuff like that. And three, I suggest you go out and buy them all, because this is going to be something that is probably going to go on for years to come, or as long as Philip can write this. And I'm sure he's got a backlog of ideas and everything else up his masterful writing sleeves. But yeah, thank you very much for staying with me for an hour. It's been a great pleasure as
Okay.
always.
My pleasure.
And
Look forward to the next one.
yeah, 100%. I'm definitely going to get you back on when this massive announcement comes. I'm already excited. I'm blushing like a little kid at Christmas, ready to open up a present. So
Me too.
I'm going to be super stoked, as I'm sure a lot of people will be when this. So is it going to come out at the same time? Are they both going to release it at the same time, or is it, you can't say, can you?
They are both going to be releasing within a month of each other, and will be announced within the next couple of months, both of them, I think.
Okay, well, you heard it here first, guys. And thank you so much for sticking with me, Philip. And I will speak to you soon. Cheers,
Yep.
mate.
Bye, man.
Cheers, dude. See ya.